Okay, I think we're about ready here. We're gonna make this a quickie, if at all possible, and try to hit a lot of different body parts, and also try to get in touch with our breathing, and hopefully feel just a little bit better afterwards. All right, we're gonna start in our tabletop position. And we're gonna work on our spine right away. We'll segment here, so we'll start with just the pelvis and the lumbar, flexing and extending. This can also be done on the forearms if your wrists need a break. And then try to keep your tuck with that tailbone, a little bit of flexion in the lumbar spine. So you're shortening the distance between your belly button and your ribs. And then we're just going to try to get the upper back to flex and extend. This is a much smaller movement for most of us. You can pair this movement with your breathing or just let your breath be natural. Let's put it all together for a little wave of the spine from tail to the top of the head. And tail to the top of the head going the other way. 3 more times. Then we'll hold each position. So next time you find yourself in the cat pose where you're rounding your back, pause there, push firmly through your hands. Try to get your upper back to round even more by contracting through the front side, shortening the gap between pelvis and ribs. And then follow that up with a few moments pausing in spine extension, the cow, contracting upper back, letting the tailbone lift, feeling the belly stretch. And then find your neutral. I'm going to use my yoga blocks for this next little series. You can too if you want. We're going to step our right foot through. And ideally, we will try to keep our left toes tucked under here because we're going to try to work both feet as we work the hips a little bit. So we'll start with the hips pushing back, working over that right leg as it straightens any amount. And then as we shift our body forward, you're going to let your knee travel beyond your toes if it wants to. And then rock back. Hips towards the left heel. The right foot might want to float off the ground a little bit, at least the toes. Stretch your hamstrings. And then shift forward. Now, if you wanted to increase the range of motion on that backward portion, make it more like a half splits, walk your blocks back. And sit your weight back there on your heel so you can get your right leg a little straighter. I'm just going to find your own pace here and we'll roll through ankle dorsiflexion on the front side. And then when we rock back, that front ankle is also dorsiflexed with the toes up. And the back foot, we're maintaining the toe extension the whole way through. Let's do one more like this from front to back. And then back to the front. Probably we'll need just one block for this one, so set it beside your right foot. And then you're going to pivot your left shin so that it's more parallel to the end of your mat. That's a turned open kneeling position, kind of like the Warrior Two. You're going to use your right arm inside that right leg to press against it. Okay, and then that left arm's just going to go up. So it feels kind of like a baby side angle pose. Working the leg into your arm and your arms pressing back. So both of those joints are getting just a nice low level isometric contraction. And then give your left glutes a little squeeze. And let's take the spine the other direction. Your left arm can just hang, right arm's gonna reach up, and we'll take the spine into a tiny side bend towards the left. Beautiful. Let's pivot back to that neutral position and then switch sides. Turning the right leg so that the hip is more open. Left arm inside the leg, right arm's just reaching up on a diagonal, and you're pressing your leg and your arm together. Try to connect somewhat to that neutral pelvis position, and it might help to invite that right side glute contraction again. And then let's go the other direction. Right shoulder, just relax it. Left arm reaches, and then arc your spine slightly to the right. Pressing down through the right foot. One more breath. Great work. Let's go back to the right side. Step your right foot through. And now we're going to keep the hips and the legs in that neutral lunging stance. If you need a little padding for your knee, just drop your mat into a little fold there. And then your left hand is going to reach around either to hold your knee or the outside of your thigh, depending on the length of your limbs. One's going to be a little bit more accessible. And then your right arm is going to start by reaching across towards the left. And then we're going to open towards the back. Now, the whole time you're moving the upper body like this, you're working on a little bit of pressure on that right foot. So you're stomping on the right foot, but you're also trying to press that leg slightly outward. But because you're holding onto it with your left hand, it's not going to go anywhere. So again, we have just that low level isometric engagement. Left hand holding the right leg in place, and we're turning the spine. Let's do a few more. Trying to open up towards the right a little bit more each time, letting your eyes even turn behind you, rolling the ribs. Last one. Cross over, and then reach it back. And then let's find our yoga blocks. Keep them on the high side. Keep your back toes tucked on this and your heel lifted, and just lift your hips until your right leg straightens. And as your right leg straightens, we'll add in, again, another little isometric engagement as if we're trying to drag the front heel backwards. Level out your back. Pull just a little bit of cobra into your upper back. One more breath. And then swap out the feet. Left leg comes forward, right leg goes back. We're going to lower the knee. Some sort of a kneeling lunge here. Right hand comes outside that left leg or just on your knee. We're going to start with a forward chest, left arm wrapping out in front of you. And then just open it up and start to rotate your thoracic. You can create a little dynamic energy in the hips by just thinking of pulling that left leg out into the hand, and a little bit of glute engagement again in this right leg. Progressing to a little bit more range of motion, not just in your shoulder, but in that upper back area, the ribs. Let's do 3 more. Last one. Hands to blocks, tuck your back toes, lift your knee, and then straighten left leg till it stops. Maintain pretty parallel spine position. And then let's do some standing work. Step your right foot through. Come up to about a halfway lift. Hands to the hips, and then feel your pelvis start to bring you up to standing by dropping the tail, tucking under slightly. Once you get to standing, squeeze your tush. Take your arms over your head for a wide grip, like you're hanging from a bar, and then we'll do pull-ups with the arms, just like we do. Last two. Last one. Bring your arms out in front of you now, level it out so that you've got the wrists real straight, fingers squeezing together. And then all we're gonna do from here is to turn the wrists inward without moving the shoulders, and then outward with the shoulders. So you're trying not to cup the palms or move the elbows or move the shoulders. Here's another view for you. It's kind of weird. Continue. It's a movement we don't get in all that often. And then we're going to work our ankles in that outward rolling. So you could do this 1 foot at a time. It's been a while since we've done this. But if you're comfortable doing 2, you're just going to roll onto the outside edge of your foot so that the inside edge of your foot lifts off. Now you can just stand here. That's great. If that's already enough load, you're just going to do that. You could do some squats, or you could try to make some steps. You could just walk on the outer edge of your foot. So choose one that you feel comfortable with, standing, squatting, or walking with the foot everted. Do whatever you want with your arms as we're doing that. Just a couple more seconds of this. Option 1, from standing, you're just going to do a regular forward fold and then come down on your seat. Option 2, you're going to cross your legs, maybe come to the outside edges of your feet and try to sit down from here. Really good. Okay, let's go on to the sides. So we're going to set up. Maybe want one block here in a little bit. Let's go into our left side first today. Bring your knees just about in front of the hip. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then we're going to keep this left forearm on a diagonal. So your fingers are pointing to the corner of the mat rather than to the side or the front. And then you're going to lift your left ribs away from the floor and create a little side bend as your right arm reaches overhead. Now we'll do just the opposite. Reach your right arm behind you, an internal rotation, and let the left ribs pull towards the ground. So now you're doing a lateral crunch the other way. Try to stay in a range of motion that feels nice for you and continue. Left side lifts as the arm goes overhead. Left side pulls towards the mat as your arm goes behind you. Could even sneak it all the way underneath you if you want to. 3 more times, real simple. Stretching like a cat. Last one. Okay, so to follow up with that, we'll keep the same lower body position, but bring ourselves all the way down to our left side. You're going to hold your own hand out in front of your chest so you can create just a little dynamic muscular tension. The left leg will press really firmly into the ground, and then the right hip is going to turn, just like we do our traditional hip cars, controlled articular rotation. Articular means the surfaces between your femur and your acetabulum. It's your cartilage. So you're trying to make the most honest circle you can without rolling the pelvis open and closed. Now let's do a few the other direction. One more. Keep pushing down with the bottom leg and stretch your top leg, your right leg, forward in front of your hip. Let's point the toe today. Okay, now we're gonna lower and try to tap the inside edge of the big toe towards the mat right in front of your hip, and then lift up just a little above the hip. We're gonna do 9 more of those, real slow and controlled. Make sure we're grounding with the left. Last 7. Last 3. Last 1. Get rid of the block if it's under your head. Lay on your back, bend your knees, set your feet hips width, and then stretch your left leg over your hip. It can be bent or straight. So the right foot's on your mat. You're gonna rock your tailbone up and press your low back down and peel your spine a little bit off the ground for a low bridge, but just on the right leg. That left leg is just along for the ride. And then you're gonna do just some single leg glute activations by adding a small pulse. Contract the glutes more so that your hips lift a little bit more, and then do like a half of a relaxation so the hips lower a little bit. Let's do 10 more. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we're just gonna flip over onto our right side now to do our hip cars and our little raises and the side body stuff. So we'll start with the right forearm set on that diagonal. Get arranged so that it feels like your spine is just kind of straight and equal on both sides. And then when you start to arc your right side waist away from the floor, that left arm's gonna reach overhead, pushing through that right forearm. And then let the right side dip. Wrap your arm around behind you. 4 more times. Last 2. Final 1. All right, let's lay all the way down underneath on the shoulder here. Arms are gonna come out. Hold your own hand, rest your head on something if that makes your neck happy. Ground firmly through your right leg like you're trying to make an imprint into the mat with it, and then start your hip circles with the left. Slow and controlled, like you're moving through air that's much heavier than your current air. Like you're moving it through wet caramel. Ooh, that sounds good. Warm caramel, I should have said. On ice cream. Oh, stop. Okay, let's go the other way. Okay, we'll do this last circle with control. And then as you straighten out your left leg, stretch it out in front of your body so it makes a 90-degree bend about at your hip. Point your toes and then do a little toe tap and a lift. Slow tap and lift. Trying to continue to pull that leg as straight as it'll go. Five more. Last 2 or so, depending. And then situate yourself on your back again. bridge stance. And then the left leg is going to be lifting us. Right leg is along for the ride. Find a low bridge. Try to level your pelvis. That didn't come out very good. And then it's just a slight relaxation off the glutes. The hips might drop just a little bit, and then power it up again. Little movements, isolating the seat. Keep tucking under to keep your low back pretty long, less compressed. Last 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then you're going to lay on your back, bring both legs up, knees over the hips, send the knees a little wider, but keep your inside arches towards each other. And then you're going to move your legs away from you just enough so that you can feel a core response. So if you had your legs too close to you, your tailbone would kind of curl up and we would lose that responsive core engagement. So move your legs away from you so that your thighs are more vertical. Now you're going to separate your feet just a tiny bit. Keep the thighs turned out. Maintain that connection to the back low ribs. And then tap one foot to the ground at a time and pick it up and switch. So my tendency here is to let my lumbar extend more, so I have to work really hard to try to keep it neutral, which for me is still a little bit of a bend. Keeping the knee at the same angle, keeping the foot at the same angle. We're just working from the hip. And that turnout adds just a little bit of variation. Try not to bend the knees anymore than they already are through the whole movement. Let's do 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Good. Plant your feet, set your feet wide on your mat. Let your right knee turn in, but keep your right pelvis grounded. Reset the right leg, keep it pretty neutral. Let the left leg turn inward. Try not to let the pelvis tip. Come back with the left leg. Do the right side one more time. We're isolating the hip only. And then one more time to the left like this, and we're going to flow into the wipers. And when you get to your wipers, feel free to let the pelvis twist along with the hip. Just try to keep your shoulders and ribs down. Let's go for it. Turning the legs to the left and to the right. Maybe pausing right in the middle there when both thighs are open. And onto the outer edges of both feet. No need to force anything in terms of getting your knees closer to the earth. Just see if you can test out what your end range is right now. Now let's keep our legs towards the left this time. And if you really like this, you can stay here, but you can also make it a little bit more spine-centric by shifting your hips a little to the right and then stacking your legs over to the left. Legs could stay bent here, or you could straighten one or both out. Soften through the right shoulder and chest, and just breathe. And then step open with your right foot first. Keep it nice and wide on your mat. Recenter your pelvis if it's shifted. And then let's let the legs travel in the wipers to the right. If this is nice, stay here. Or hips go a little left and the legs stack to the right. Spine twist. Connect left shoulder a little closer to the ground. Lay your chest open. And then you're going to bring yourself back through, letting the left leg open you up first. Shift back to a neutral centered place. And then create your cannonball roll. A little momentum. You could try to roll to standing or just get to your seat. And that's all I've got for you today. About 25 minutes on the nose. So thanks for joining me. I hope your week is off to a great start. I'll be back tomorrow night for Rest and Restore. And if you watch this later, let me know how you like this. Thanks, everybody. Take care of yourselves.